It's about allowing pleasure to flow without guilt and saying yes to love without performing for it. When you know how to receive sweetness consciously, you stop outsourcing your worth. You start living as if your softness is sacred because it is. Let softness be your medicine. Hey everyone, welcome back to A Talk with G, the podcast where ancient medicine meets soul remembrance. I'm your host Gia, and today you're tuning in to episode 2 in our sacred series of the 6 tastes of Ayurveda. Today we are entering the world of Madhura, the sweet taste. Not just the taste of honey or fruit, but the taste of being held, being safe, being loved. Sweetness is the flavor of the womb, the essence of nourishment, and the first taste we ever knew. And yet, in a world that glorifies hustle, independence, and productivity, sweetness can sometimes feel dangerous, even forbidden. We crave it, chase it, fear it, and overdo it. But why? Because the sweet taste touches a core psychological trigger, our need to feel worthy of care. So today, I invite you to get comfy and let's unravel this together. Sweetness as safety, structure, and soul memory. In the language of Ayurveda, Madhura is considered the first and most essential rasa. It is the foundation upon which the physical body and emotional stability are built. Unlike the other tastes that stimulate or provoke, sweetness contains, it holds. It says you are safe to soften here. In Ayurvedic philosophy, the sweet taste is the most nourishing of all the rasas. It is the building block of rasa, the very first tissue formed after food gets digested. And rasa doesn't just mean plasma, it means emotion, essence, juice, literally the sap of life. From this rasa, every other tissue is formed: blood, muscle, fat, bone, marrow, reproductive fluid. So when we say sweet is foundational, we mean it literally. It builds the body, sustains life, and generates our ojas, our deep immunity, our glow, our resilience. But sweetness goes even further. From the moment we are born, and even before, our relationship with sweetness begins. The first taste most of us ever experience is the sweetness of milk, of being held, soothed, fed, and rocked. It is in those early moments our nervous systems is shaped. We learn whether the world is a safe place, whether we are worthy of care. So when we talk about the sweet taste in Ayurveda, we are not talking just about flavor. We are talking about safety and soul memory. When sweetness is looked at an emotional imprint, it is deeply intertwined with our most primary emotional needs. From here, we develop attachment wounds, the places where we felt unloved, neglect, or unseen. Then we have our abandonment fears, the lingering ache of being left emotionally or physically. Our inner child longs for comfort, routine, nutrients, and unconditional love. And as adults, the exhaustion kicks in, the craving for softness, for someone to say, you can rest now without feeling guilty. It is no coincidence that we reach for sweets when we are grieving, lonely, disconnected, or overwhelmed. That chocolate bar or bowl of rice pudding isn't just food. It's an attempt for emotional regulation, a taste of safety, a return to something that's familiar, predictable, and warm. Biochemically, sweetness activates our parasympathetic nervous system, what Ayurveda calls the state of rest and digestion. And what modern science calls of ventral safety, it slows the heart rate, calms anxiety, and tells your body you are not in danger anymore. So when we turn to sweets, especially in times of stress, we are not being weak, we are being wise. We are reaching for regulation. We are remembering love. But, and this is key, there is a difference between conscious sweetness and compulsive sweetness. Are we offering ourselves sweetness as an act of self devotion, or are we using it to avoid something deeper? Are we reaching for cookies when we really need comfort? Do we crave sugar or slowness? Chocolate or connection? In Ayurveda, This sweet taste is sacred, but like all sacred things, it must be honored with intention. Too much or the wrong kind, and what once felt nourishing becomes numbing. What was once a balm becomes a burden. So, in today's world, where sweetness is both abundant and empty, where so many of us are starved for an emotional nourishment, this rasa invites us back to our inner center, not to shame ourselves for craving, not to cut off from comfort, but to listen. Sweetness is not a sin, it is an invitation to rest, to receive, and to remember what safety feels like in your bones. Earth and water, the architect of comfort. Our elemental framework. Every taste is composed of two of the five great elements, Pancha Mahabhat. The sweet taste, or Madhuras, is arise from two of the most substantial and nurturing elements, earth, Prithvi, and water, Apas. These are the building elements of the universe, and they are also the very elements that build us. Earth brings the quality of stability, solidity, heaviness, stillness, and structure. Water adds moisture, flow, softness, and adaptability, emotional connectivity. When combined, earth and water form a taste that is heavy but gentle, grounded yet fluid, solid but nourishing, safe but not stagnant. This is the architecture of containment, the geometry of trust, the energetic signature of rest. Think about foods that are sweet in nature. We've talked about this. Warm milk, ghee, ripe mango, soft rice. These aren't just pleasurable, they're reassuring. They're predictable, safe, and consistent. These are the tastes and textures that tell your nervous system you do not need to be on guard right now. You can exhale. You're at home. Ayurvedic recognizes that each dosha responds differently to the energetic nature of each taste. Sweet is no exception, and its influence is profound. You see, while sweet pacifies our vatas and our pitta, it gives them this anchor. Our vatas airy and scattered tendencies. Sweet brings warmth to the cold limbs, moisture to the dry tissues, and calm to the overstimulated mind. For our vata type, sweet food could feel like a weighted blanket for our soul. And for our pittas that tend to run hot and intense, the cooling and stabilizing effect of sweet provides emotional ease, the psychological relief. It soothes inflammation, both physically in the gut and emotionally in the temperament. For pitta, sweetness says you don't need to fight right now. You are allowed to receive. However, for our kappas, you already carry the elemental weight and moisture. But when more is added, it leads to physical, emotional, and energetic heaviness. Too much sweetness in your kapha dominated body or during a kapha phase of life, like early childhood, springtime, or hormonal stagnation, can manifest as mucus buildup, water retention, clinging to relationship, habits, and comfort zones. It's best to know where you are in your life and in your body. Ayurveda doesn't say sweet is bad or kapha shouldn't have sweetness. It's saying know when you're full. It asks, what's your baseline today? Are you dry or heavy, cold or inflamed, restless or sluggish? Do you need connection or ignition? Is your body asking to be built up or cleared out? This is what it means to match the rasa to the moment, to meet your body where it is, not where you think it should be. So, when you crave something sweet, pause and feel deeper. Are you depleted, needing nourishment, or are you already full and seeking escape? The sweet taste is sacred, but sacred things are powerful, and power requires presence. When nourishment becomes a form of remembrance, when received with presence, our sweet taste becomes more than flavor, becomes medicine. Medicine for our nervous system, medicine for our heart, medicine for the inner child that still lives in our body, waiting to feel safe again. We are often taught that sweet is indulgent, something to restrict, control, earn, or burn off. But from this lens, sweetness, true sweetness, is sacred. When it comes in the right form, at the right time, and with reverence, it doesn't sedate or numb. It heals. It softens the sharp edges, soothes the tired spirit, and gives you permission to exhale. Let's explore what this rasa does on every level of your being. Modern neurobiology agrees with Ayurvedic that sweetness speaks the language of safety. When you are consciously experience a sweet taste, whether through food, touch, or tone, your brain responds with chemical affirmations of peace. Serotonin and dopamine, the feel good neurotransmitters linked to pleasure, reward, and emotional balance. Sweetness stabilizes our mood and reduces anxiety and irritability. Oxytocin, known as the bonding hormone. Oxytocin increases through sweet foods and sweet experience, like affectionate touch, eye contact, and kind words. It's the hormone of trust, intimacy, and maternal care. Parasympathetic activation. Sweetness activates that nerve that signals our body to enter that rest and digestive state. Our heart rate slows down, breaths deepen, cortisone drops. You feel safe, and from safety, healing begins. Our root chakra is linked deeply to this taste. On a subtle level, the sweet taste nourishes our muladhara, our root chakra. This energy center governs our sense of security, belonging, and basic needs. Sweetness stabilizes the root, reconnecting us to the earth beneath us and the home within. Emotionally, sweet taste invites us back into the relationship with what is soft, patient, loving, and whole. When used mindfully, our sweet rasa can cultivate patience and gentleness. You see, sweet slows us down. It invites us to step out of urgency, of out of proving and into presence. It stabilizes our emotional reactivity. Just as it softens the tissue, it also helps to soften the mood. Our mood swings and hypersensitivity in this day's world is on heightened level always. You see, sweet rasa is so helpful for those of us who are feeling overexposed, emotionally raw, or overstimulated. Affirming our right to be supported. Sweetness builds this inner sense that I am held. This is an antidote to isolation, hyperindependence, and emotional starvation. Reawakening sensuality and sacred feminine. Our sweet rasa reminds us that the body is not a battlefield, but a vessel of sacred, sensational intelligence. It invites us to taste, to touch, to feel, to receive. This is why Ayurveda often recommends sweet taste for those in recovery, not just a form of physical illness, but heartbreak, burnout, postpartum, depletion, spiritual grief, or ancestral fatigue. Here's the truth: most of us were never taught sweetness doesn't have to come from food. In fact, it shouldn't always come from food. The real healing begins when we learn to receive sweetness in its many forms. A warm bath in the candlelight, soft blanket on a rainy day, soulful music that stirs our heart, reading poetry out loud to our inner child, slow, attuned touch with your own hands or a partner, time with elders, animal, or children who emanate trust, being listened to without interruption, fixing, or an agenda. You see, those are all forms of our sweet rasa. That's how we build radiance and resilience. And when you recognize and receive this kind of sweetness, the kind that asks for nothing of you in return, your body begins to relax itself. Your heart opens, your digestion improves, and your emotions settle. And most of all, you remember you are worthy of care, not because you earned it, but because you simply exist. When comfort becomes a cage, here's where sweet taste gets a little sticky, literally, energetically, and emotionally. Sweetness is the rasa we most instinctively reach for when we're hurting, when we're lonely, overworked, undertouched, unseen. It speaks to our primary need for security, but it also becomes the easiest rasa to misuse because it so closely mimics love. Sweetness soothes us, but it can also sedate us. It's calming, but it can also become clingy. It nurtures until it becomes numbing. When we are not receiving true nourishment from our relationships, environment, inner world, we often look for substitute. Sweet taste, especially through food or external validation, becomes a quick access portal to comfort. But it's often a false refuge. Let's explore some of the deeper psychological dynamics at play. Emotional eating can look a lot like craving love or comfort. We don't always eat to feed the body. We eat to fill the ache of emotional absence, a gesture of self parenting that says, I don't know what I need, but this will help me feel something good. We often give it to ourselves as a reward based behavior. I earned this, I deserve this. This stems from our overachiever wound, where worthiness is often tied to effort. Sweet becomes a currency for permission to rest or enjoy. A fear of deprivation, hoarding, binging, scarcity driven eating, is rooted from childhood trauma, food insecurity, or internalizing scarcity. This is a pattern driven by the belief may not be enough sweetness later, so I have to take it all now. Something we all go through but don't really want to admit to. And then we have the lack of sweetness. Outsourcing love to sugar, people praise us. When we haven't developed a steady inner stream of self love and approval, we reach out externally to sugar, compliments, romantic partners, hoping the sweetness we haven't yet built within. Now, when sweet is consumed unconsciously or excess, whether through food, people pleasing, or emotional dependency, the symptoms can manifest across all layers of our being. Mentally and emotionally, we can show up with these signs of brain fog, emotional dullness. Life starts to feel muted and heavy. The mind moves slower. Joy feels distant. Sometimes we end up feeling lethargic and avoidance. Sweet dulls the sharp edges of discomfort, but also our motivation and clarity. We become overgiving and our boundaries collapse. If I keep being sweet to everyone, they'll love me back. This is sweetness used as a strategy for belonging. We then start to romanticize codependency. We begin to associate love with sacrifice, mistaken depletion for devotion. And then we start to become attached to familiarity. We resist change. We hold on to people, to jobs, to stories, even when they're no longer nourishing us. Physically, it could show up as weight gain, water retention, sugar crashes, unstable blood sugar, insulin resistance, daytime fatigue, especially post meal, craving for stimulation, caffeine, sugar approval to feel alive, congestion, digestion, bloating, and sluggishness. Here's the facts, or here's the truth. When we fear feeling empty, we fill with sweets. When we haven't built inner safety, we outsource it to cookies, cuddles, or compliments. But real nourishment doesn't come from more sweets. It comes from the right kind at the right dose with the right intention. And that intention is what Ayurveda calls Sankapal, sacred commitment, a decision to feed the parts of you that are truly hungry, not just the parts that are scared. Healing our relationship to the sweet taste isn't about cutting it out, it's about reclaiming it. It's about learning to say, I choose this softness not because I need it to survive, but because I deserve to feel good. It's about pausing before you reach and asking, what am I really hungry for right now? Do I need sugar or slowness? Do I want chocolate or am I craving connection? Can I let sweets come through something else? Maybe touch, music, breathing, beauty, prayer? This is what conscious sweetness looks like. It's not a punishment or a prize, it's a sacred offering to the parts of us that we are rebuilding. The revolutionary power of receiving. Among the six tastes in Ayurveda, Madhura runs the deepest, not just in the body, but in the psyche, in the ancestral memory, in the nervous system longing to be told, you are safe now, you may rest. Because here, the truth we often forget in the world that idolizes independency, urgency, and productivity. Receiving is a skill, softness is a strength, rest is a form of remembrance. And sweetness, when received consciously, helps us practice all of that. Most of us were raised in a system where rewards came from overdoing it. We were taught that love must be earned, that softness is weakness, that needing comfort is shameful. And so the sweet taste became complicated. It became overused or underallowed. It became confused with guilt, indulgence, or addiction. It became transactional, something we only get after proving our worth. But today, in this lens, an Ayurvedic lens, Madhura is not conditional. It is foundational. It is the rasa that says, you do not need to earn sweetness. You are sweetness. When we awaken to a deeper meaning of the sweet taste, something in us shifts. We begin to see that our craving for sugar softens. Our sweetness isn't weakness, it's a signal, a call to reconnect with the part of us that knows how to receive without shame. Through this lens, sweetness becomes a mirror of our ability to receive love, help, ease, affection, resource, touch without the guilt, the fear, or over explaining. A reparenting practice where we feed our inner child who once had to be quote unquote good to be held, who now gets to receive without performance. A reclamation of rest, understanding that productivity isn't the only path to worth, that strength also looks like softness, stillness, and surrendering. A shift into the food body relationship from punishment and shame to presence and partnership. Sweet taste is no longer a battlefield, it becomes a ceremony. In society, in today's society where we live, built on hyper masculine values, urgency, domination, extraction, choosing sweetness with intention becomes a radical act. An act to say, I am enough right now. I do not need to hustle to deserve sweetness. To say, I can receive without overgiving, without earning, without chasing. To say, my comfort matters, my softness matters, my joy matters. This isn't indulgence, this is integration. Because when we recognize Madhura as the sacred frequency, not just a food group, we stop chasing temporary highs and start cultivating lasting nourishment. We build lives that feed us emotionally, energetically, and spiritually without always needing a snack, a scroll, or someone else's approval. So I'll leave you with this. Recognize the sweet taste is about remembering who you were before the world told you to toughen up. It's about choosing comfort, not as a crutch, but as a catalyst for healing. It's about allowing pleasure to flow without guilt and saying yes to love without performing for it. When you know how to receive sweetness consciously, you stop outsourcing your worth. You start living as if your softness is sacred because it is. Let softness be your medicine. I want to thank you guys for joining me today as we explore our sweet tastes, not just the flavor, but the frequency, the way of being, and a path back to safety, softness, and soul. If nothing else, I hope today's episode reminded you you don't need to earn the sweetness of life. You don't have to prove yourself to be held. You are worthy of nourishment simply because you exist. So, next time you crave something sweet, pause. Ask yourself, is this about sugar or about support? And then gently, lovingly choose the kind of sweetness your whole self truly needs. Whether it's a warm meal, a walk in nature, a long hug, or simply just to rest. Let sweetness become something sacred again. Let comfort be conscious act of care, and let softness be the medicine, not the shame. In next week, we'll be moving on to the world of sour, the taste of fire, transformation, and awakening. We'll explore how this rasa energizes the mind, sharpens our digestion, and invites us to release emotional stagnation. If today's episode touched you, enlightened you, sparked an interest, or sweetened your heart, I'd love to hear from you. Tag me on Instagram at atalkwithg. Share this episode with someone who can really benefit from this, learning how to nourish themselves with more love, more awareness, and a lot more grace. Until next time, be gentle with your hunger, be generous with your rest, and may every bite and every breath remind you you are already enough.